A sharply dressed man strides into Judge Caprio's courtroom with the poised confidence of someone who's long believed he's cleverer than everyone else around him. His tailored suit shines, his designer watch catches the light, and his luxury BMW waits outside. Each detail reflecting the arrogance of a man used to slipping past consequences. His name is George Webster, a 35-year-old Eastern European immigrant living in Los Angeles, facing trial for what appear to be routine traffic offenses, driving without a valid license, and presenting fraudulent insurance. On the surface, it seems like a standard case likely to end with a fine. But as Judge Frank Caprio begins reviewing the file, he senses something darker hiding beneath the paperwork. This isn't about traffic violations at all. It's about betrayal, manipulation, and an elderly woman who trusted the wrong person. It's about a charming predator who masked his exploitation behind polite smiles and refined manners. And when that elderly woman takes the witness stand, her trembling voice revealing how George Webster destroyed her life piece by piece, the courtroom goes silent, realizing they're witnessing a rare moment. A con artist trapped by his own arrogance. So before we go further, hit subscribe right now because nearly 98% of viewers haven't yet subscribed to Caprio, the Chief Judge. And this story proves exactly why those who prey on the elderly deserve zero sympathy and why Judge Caprio's justice lands hard, fast, and fair. By the end, you'll see the confident smirk vanish from Webster's face, watch his luxury car get seized, and witness an elderly woman finally reclaim her dignity after being deceived by the man she once called family. It's a Tuesday morning, 10:15 a.m. at the Providence Municipal Court. The bailiff announces George Webster charged with operating a vehicle without a valid license and presenting fraudulent insurance documentation. A man in his mid-30s walks in as if he owns the courtroom. His navy blue tailored suit fits like it was made for a magazine spread. His crisp white shirt and polished Italian shoes gleam under the fluorescent lights. His dark hair is perfectly styled and a Rolex shines on his wrist. Everything about him screams wealth and control, but beneath that surface is a smirk that doesn't quite reach his eyes, a careless air that says he believes none of this truly matters. Judge Caprio looks up from the bench, his tone calm, yet evaluating. "Good morning, Mr. Webster." "Good morning, Your Honor," Webster replies smoothly, his Eastern European accent softened by years of practice. Judge Caprio flips through the report, his expression tightening. "Mr. Webster, you're charged with operating a vehicle without a valid driver's license and presenting fraudulent insurance documents. Can you explain what happened?" George smiles, an easy rehearsed one. "Your Honor, it's all just a misunderstanding. My license renewal was delayed due to immigration paperwork issues and the insurance situation. It was simply a communication error with my provider." "A communication error?" Judge Caprio echoes, brow furrowed. "Yes, Your Honor. These things occur. Documents get misplaced. Systems glitch. Nothing deliberate." But the judge isn't convinced. "Mr. Webster, according to this record, you've been driving without a valid license for 8 months. That's not a paperwork delay. That's a pattern." Webster's smile wavers slightly. "I've been attempting to resolve it, Your Honor. The DMV, it's a nightmare for immigrants." Judge Caprio's voice sharpens. "Mr. Webster, I'm an Italian immigrant myself. I know the process can be frustrating, but driving without a license for 8 months, that's not a challenge, it's a choice." The tension in the room thickens as Caprio scans the next page. There's more. "The car you were driving, a 2023 BMW 7 Series, is registered to a Mrs. Manna, age 78. Care to explain?" "She's my landlord. She allows me to use her car sometimes." "She lets you use her $70,000 car?" Caprio asks, tone skeptical. "She's generous, Your Honor. We have a good relationship." That word relationship hangs in the air like smoke. Caprio's instincts are already on alert. He flips through a few more documents. Employment records, wage complaints, irregular payments. "What do you do for work, Mr. Webster?" "I'm a caregiver, Your Honor. I help elderly people. Errands, appointments, basic care." "And Mrs. LSH, Caprio presses. "She was my client," George replies smoothly. "Now she's more like family." The way he says family makes Judge Caprio's jaw tighten because now it's clear this isn't just a traffic case. It's the unraveling of a man who built his luxury life by preying on those too kind to suspect betrayal. And George Webster is about to learn what happens when a con artist finally meets a judge who sees through every single lie. There's something unsettling, almost predatory about the calm confidence in George Webster's manner, a casualness that makes Judge Caprio's instincts flare. Mr. Webster, the judge says firmly, I'm going to ask Mrs. Lash to come forward. She's listed as a witness in this case. For the first time, George's confidence falters, a brief crack in his polished act. Your Honor, that won't be necessary, he replies quickly. Mrs. LSH is elderly. She gets confused. But Judge Caprio doesn't accept it. She's here, he says, voice steady. And she's competent to testify. Mrs. Locke, please approach. Subscribe to Caprio, the Chief Judge. If you believe elder abuse is among the most unforgivable crimes in existence. Slowly, an elderly woman rises from her seat. She's barely 5 feet tall, frail, dressed in a faded floral dress clearly worn countless times. Her hands shake as she grips her walker, movements careful, steps unsteady, but her eyes, though tired, hold a painful clarity. Judge Caprio softens his tone. Mrs. Lash, thank you for being here today. I know this isn't easy. Can you tell me about your relationship with Mr. Webster? Mana's voice is barely audible, trembling, but brave. He came to me about 2 years ago, she begins. Through an agency, he was supposed to help me with groceries, drive me to appointments. My husband had recently passed and I needed help. Caprio nods gently. And did he help you? She nods, tears forming. At first, yes. He was kind, charming, attentive. He said I reminded him of his grandmother in Ukraine. He said he wanted to care for me. Judge Caprio gives a faint smile. That sounds kind. Mana's voice cracks. That's what I thought too, Your Honor. I trusted him. I treated him like the grandson I never had. The judge leans forward. What changed? She exhales shakily. After about 6 months, he said he needed my help. His apartment building was being sold, and he had nowhere to go. I had a spare bedroom, so I offered it. He said he'd pay rent. Caprio's eyes narrow slightly. And did he? She shakes her head slowly. The first month? Yes, but after that there was always a problem. Issues with his bank clients delaying payments were always the excuse. I didn't push because he helped me so much. I felt I owed him kindness. Judge Caprio's tone becomes deliberate. Mrs. Locke, how did Mr. Webster end up driving your car? Mana wipes her eyes with a trembling hand. He said his car broke down and he needed transport to reach his other clients to earn money, to pay me rent. I felt guilty because he was already living in my house, and I didn't want him to feel indebted. So, I told him he could borrow my car temporarily. Caprio glances at his notes. And when was that? About a year ago, she answers softly. A year ago, the judge repeats. And he's still using it? Yes, Your Honor. He says he's still repairing his car, but I've never seen him work on it. And he never lets me use my own car, even when I have doctor's appointments. He drives me only when he feels like it. Judge Caprio's expression hardens. Mrs. LSH, he says, lifting a document from the file. These papers show that you signed over your car title to Mr. Webster. Do you remember signing this? Mana's face tightens with confusion and fear. He had me sign a lot of papers, she stammers. He said they were for insurance in case of emergencies. He told me it was to make things easier if something ever happened so he could help handle it. Caprio leans forward, voice grave. Did you understand that you were signing over ownership of your car? Tears fill her eyes. No, Your Honor. I didn't understand. My eyesight isn't good. He told me where to sign, and I trusted him. From the podium, George interjects smoothly, voice calm but defensive. Your Honor, Mrs. Lash wanted me to have the car. She was concerned about her estate planning. Judge Caprio's reply cuts through the air like a blade. Mr. Webster, you'll have your turn to speak. Right now, Mrs. Lash is testifying. Then, turning back to the elderly woman with a tone full of empathy and quiet resolve, he says softly, Please continue, Mrs. Lash. The tension in the courtroom thickens because beneath every word she speaks lies the quiet heartbreak of trust turned into betrayal. Mrs. Lash, Judge Caprio began softly, though there was an edge beneath his calm. Were there any other documents Mr. Webster had you sign? The elderly woman hesitated, then nodded. Yes, Your Honor. Papers about my house, about my bank accounts. He said they were all to help me, to make sure I was protected. Judge Caprio flipped through the growing pile of documents, expression darkening. According to these records, Mrs. LSH, you signed a power of attorney, giving Mr. Webster full control over your financial decisions.
Do you remember doing that?
Mana's frail voice quivered. He told me it was just in case I got sick, Your Honor, in case I couldn't make my own decisions.
He said it was only to protect me.
The judge's tone grew heavier.
And has he used that power of attorney?
Mana's voice shrank almost to a whisper.
I think so, Your Honor. My bank accounts, they're almost empty now.
I used to have savings from when my husband passed.
Now there's almost nothing left.
Caprio leaned forward.
Have you asked Mr. Webster about this?
Yes, Your Honor, she said weakly. He told me I was spending more than I realized, that the money went to bills, rent, car repairs, but I don't remember spending that much, and I'm scared, Your Honor.
I'm scared he's going to take my house too.
Judge Caprio's anger was visible now, though he kept his voice tender for her.
Mrs. Locke, why didn't you report this sooner?
She looked down, ashamed. Because I was embarrassed, Your Honor.
Embarrassed that I let someone deceive me. That I trusted the wrong person.
I was afraid, Mr. Webster.
Sometimes he's kind, but other times when I ask questions, he gets angry.
Not violent, but intimidating.
I'm 78 years old and alone. I didn't know what to do.
The judge turned toward George, his tone now cold and cutting.
Mr. Webster, I've listened to Mrs. Lash's testimony carefully. Now I want to hear your explanation, and I want the truth.
George straightened his posture, wearing a mask of control, though his eyes flickered with calculation. Your Honor, Mrs. LS is a sweet lady, but she's elderly and sometimes gets confused. Everything I did was to help her. Judge Caprio slammed that door instantly.
Stop. Just stop right there.
His voice was sharp as steel.
Mrs. Lash is not confused. She's frightened. There's a difference.
Your Honor, I've cared for her for 2 years. You've exploited her for 2 years, the judge interrupted, tone unwavering.
That's not fair, George protested. What's not fair?
Caprio shot back. You are taking advantage of a vulnerable elderly woman who trusted you. What's not fair is manipulating her into signing over her assets while pretending it was for her own good. He picked up the stack of papers, frustration visible.
Let's go through this one step at a time. You had Mrs. Lash sign over her car title. What was your intention?
George's answer came smooth, rehearsed.
She wanted me to handle things if something ever happened to her.
She was worried about being a burden. That's interesting, Caprio replied coolly, because Mrs. Lash just testified she didn't know she was signing over her car.
She thought it was insurance paperwork. She may not remember correctly, Your Honor. She's 78.
The judge leaned forward, glare unflinching. Her memory seems perfectly fine to me.
Yours, however, appears conveniently selective.
He continued, voice steady but filled with restrained fury. You also had her sign a power of attorney, giving you financial control over her accounts. And according to bank statements, her savings dropped from $93,000 to less than $4,000 in just 1 year.
Where did that money go, Mr. Webster? George answered smoothly.
To her care, Your Honor, to bills, expenses, home repairs.
Caprio's hand tightened around the documents.
There are no records of home repairs, no major medical bills, no emergencies, just consistent withdrawals that line up with luxury purchases, expensive dinners, designer clothes, the insurance on that BMW you drive.
Shall I keep going?
For the first time, George's practiced confidence begins to crumble, smooth mask slipping as the truth corners him under Judge Caprio's relentless stare. Your Honor, I believe I deserve to be compensated for my time, George says, tone still smooth but increasingly defensive. Judge Caprio's eyebrows lift sharply.
Compensated?
You were living rent-free in her home, Mr. Webster. You were supposed to be paying her, not taking from her.
George leans forward, trying to sound composed. She forgave my rent. Caprio fires back instantly.
She forgave it because you manipulated her. You made her feel guilty for expecting the payment she deserved while you pretended to be a selfless helper. The judge's voice begins to rise, calm authority giving way to righteous fury.
Mr. Webster, you are a predator.
You deliberately targeted a vulnerable elderly woman. You gained her trust by pretending to care, isolated her by making yourself indispensable, and then systematically stripped her of her car, her savings, and nearly her home.
George interrupts. Your Honor, I object to that characterization. Caprio doesn't flinch. Your objection is noted and overruled. Now, let's get to the heart of this. Did Mrs. Lash knowingly and voluntarily sign over her assets to you? George hesitates, eyes darting as he searches for words. She signed the documents, Your Honor. That's not what I asked, Caprio says sharply. Did she understand what she was signing? I explained them to her, George insists. In detail. Caprio presses in words an elderly woman with poor eyesight could actually understand. George hesitates again, this time visibly uneasy. I gave her the general idea. The judge leans back, voice heavy with controlled disbelief. The general idea? So, you admit you didn't fully explain that she was signing over her car, her financial control, her assets, all of it. George's polished mask finally starts to crumble. Your Honor, he stammers. She trusted me to make good decisions for her. Caprio's tone cuts like glass. She trusted you, Mr. Webster, and you exploited that trust completely and deliberately. Don't forget to subscribe to Caprio, the Chief Judge, for moments like this where predators get exposed and victims get justice. The courtroom is silent as Judge Caprio takes a long breath, trying to keep his composure while anger flickers in his eyes. Mr. Webster, he begins again quieter, but even more dangerous. This court typically handles traffic violations. That's all you were cited for. But what we've uncovered today goes far beyond that. George tries to interrupt. Your Honor, I'm not finished. Caprio snaps. You came in here confident, smiling, treating this as a minor inconvenience. You thought you'd pay a small fine, walk out, and go right back to exploiting Mrs. Lash. That's not what's happening. The judge's rulings come rapid fire. First, the BMW 7 Series registered in Mrs. Lash's name, the one you've been driving, is hereby seized effective immediately. The title transfer you coerced from her is voided, obtained through fraud and undue influence. George's face drains of color. Your Honor, that's my car. Caprio doesn't blink. No, Mr. Webster, that's her car, and she's getting it back. Your Honor, I need that car for work, George pleads. Caprio fires back coldly. You should have thought about that before you stole it. Second, the power of attorney you obtained from Mrs. Lash is revoked as of this moment. You no longer hold any legal authority over her finances, her property, or her decisions. George tries again, voice shaking. She wanted me to have that authority, Your Honor. She wanted someone she trusted to help her. Caprio's tone is thunderous. You abused that trust. That authority is revoked. Third, this case is being referred to the district attorney's office for a full criminal investigation into elder abuse, financial exploitation, and fraud. What you've done to this woman isn't just unethical, it's criminal. George's desperation begins to show. Your Honor, this is an overreaction. Mrs. Lash and I just had a misunderstanding we can work out. Caprio's glare could pierce stone. There's no misunderstanding here, Mr. Webster. There's theft. There's exploitation. There's elder abuse. Those are crimes, not misunderstandings. His voice turns harsher with each word. Fourth, you are ordered to immediately vacate Mrs. Lash's property. You have 48 hours to collect your belongings and leave. If you remain past that, you'll be removed by law enforcement and charged with trespassing. George's voice trembles. Your Honor, where am I supposed to go? Caprio doesn't hesitate. That's not my concern. You're a clever man, aren't you? You'll figure it out, just like you figured out how to manipulate a 78-year-old widow. The judge lifts the final document. Fifth, and this is important, you are ordered to provide a full accounting of every single dollar you withdrew or spent from Mrs. Lash's accounts. The district attorney will review those records as part of the criminal case. By now, George's confidence has vanished completely. The once smooth con man is visibly panicking, composure shattered under the weight of justice closing in. Your Honor, I don't have that money anymore, George muttered, voice trembling under the weight of what was coming. Judge Caprio's response was sharp and cold. Then you're in serious trouble, aren't you? What followed felt like a hammer of justice coming down. Sixth, the judge declared firmly, Mrs. Lash's debts, the money you claim to have spent on her behalf, and the rent you say she forgave, all of it is hereby declared null and void. She owes you nothing. In fact, you owe her approximately $89,000 plus interest. George's eyes widened. Your Honor, I can't pay that, he stammered.
Then you'll deal with the civil courts, Judge Caprio replied, tone unwavering, and potentially prison. But you will not take another penny from Mrs. Lash. Then turning to the trembling elderly woman seated before him, his voice softened. Mrs. Lash, I'm so sorry this happened to you. You did absolutely nothing wrong. You were kind. You tried to help someone, and he took advantage of that kindness. That shame is his, not yours. Tears streamed down Mana's face as she whispered, Thank you, Your Honor. I just want my car back and I want him out of my house. Judge Caprio nodded gently. You'll get both. And Mrs. Lash, I'm referring you to Elder Advocacy Services. They'll help you secure your home, recover your assets, and make sure no one ever takes advantage of you again. The courtroom fell into a hush. Then Judge Caprio addressed everyone present, voice firm but emotional. Ladies and gentlemen, what you've seen today is elder abuse, one of the cruelest crimes imaginable because it preys on people who most deserve protection. These predators don't break into homes with weapons. They enter with smiles, with fake kindness, and then slowly steal everything, trust, money, dignity, all while pretending to care. His gaze locked onto George. Mr. Webster, you came into this courtroom confident because you thought you were untouchable. You believed you were too clever, that an elderly woman wouldn't be believed, that she'd stay silent out of fear or shame. But you were wrong. So very wrong. George lowered his eyes, silent and defeated. You asked Mrs. Lash to trust you, and she did. But trust isn't a trick. It's not a weapon or a tool for manipulation. It's sacred, especially when given by someone vulnerable. The judge's next words were like daggers. You destroyed that trust. You stole from someone who treated you like family. And today you're learning the price of that betrayal. He raised his gavel. All rulings are effective immediately. Mr. Webster, surrender the BMW keys to the bailiff. Mrs. Lash's car will be returned today. You have 48 hours to vacate her property. The district attorney will be in touch regarding criminal charges. This court is adjourned. The gavel slammed down with a sound that seemed to echo through George's hollow confidence. As he slowly walked out, no longer smirking, no longer sure of himself, Mana Lash was surrounded by court advocates who promised to help her rebuild what she'd lost. An older man in the audience stepped forward and said softly, Your Honor, my mother went through the same thing. Thank you for standing up for Mrs. Lash. Judge Caprio nodded with quiet gravity. I wish I could protect them all, he said. But at least today, one predator has been stopped. And with that, justice felt real. Not just spoken, but served. George Webster walked into court arrogant and proud. He left stripped of everything he'd stolen, car seized, criminal charges looming, and no home to return to. Mana Lash walked in broken and ashamed. She left with her car restored, her home protected, and her dignity reclaimed. And as the crowd dispersed, one truth rang clear.